Okay, so now I welcome you to the fourth week session of this course on strategic performance management, and in this week probably we will talk about some other issues related to performance management, especially when it comes to implementing a system, right. So far we have been talking about that how we are going to evaluate the performance, what are the issues that we need to look at, like the rating has to be accurate because it is linked with the reward, right. So, when we are talking about these issues, it is very, very important that when we are going to implement a system, make sure that these kind of errors do not happen, right. And that is where the raters need to be trained to identify what are the problems, how they can overcome this problem. So, that the rating is not going to be either inflated or deflated, right. In this context, we want to discuss it further, that how we are going to develop a performance management system. When you are going to implement it, you are going to ensure that this performance management system correctly evaluates the performance of the employees without any error, right. So, in this context, what we are going to discuss here is that how we can develop a good performance management system, and in this context we need to look at the role of communication and how we need to train raters so that they provide good performance rating. Now, what are the things that is involved in implementation? So, basically when you want to implement a performance management system and you want to evaluate the performance as it has happened, okay. So, neither we are going to inflate it and neither we are going to deflate it. So, the most important thing is that you look at each and every aspect of the performance in question, and those who are involved, whether they are trained or not, whether they understand what they are supposed to do, right. And then also need to communicate them about the benefits of this kind of system, okay, that why we want to use this kind of system, how the rating will happen, what kind of support is acceptable, support is provided by the top management, and whether this kind of rating is going to be accepted by people or not, right. So, the most important thing is that when we are going to develop a performance management system, make sure that people understand it, okay. They are not going to make any error. Whosoever is involved in the process, it could be supervisors, it could be the individual itself or other stakeholders who would be part of the evaluation process, right. Plus there are resources and support that is available by the top management, and it is widely accepted along with all the stakeholders, those who are evaluated, those who are evaluating and other stakeholders in the process. And there is a system of feedback and evaluation as such, right, ongoing monitoring. So, you are able to track how well the person is performing, so that he is able to meet those KPIs and the standards within a given time frame, right. So, it is very, very important that you prepare yourself along these dimensions before you proceed further, and when you want to proceed further, you need to look at these perspectives. So, the most important thing is related to developing a communication plan, right. So, when you are going to develop a communication plan, you need to communicate about the performance management system, that why you want to introduce this performance management system in the organization, right. Because you have been already evaluating the performance, and then you want to move to a comprehensive management system, which is not just evaluation of the employees, right. And that is why we differentiated between performance evaluation and performance management. Performance evaluation, while being a subset of the performance management system, you are taking a more holistic or a broad perspective of performance at different levels in the organization, and you are also trying to align it with individual, group and the organization. So, on the one side, when you are trying to say that the performance is aligned, so that whosoever is contributing is visible along these lines, starting with the individual to the group or the unit or the department to the organization. You also ensure that these alignments happen between the organization and the strategy, right, and this has to be communicated to the all the stakeholders. Similarly, you also need to communicate the benefits, how the system is going to work, whether you are going to have an offline system or online system. Now, you know that we are going to have automated softwares which are going to have or evaluate your performance, okay. and in the process what are the roles and responsibilities of the different stakeholders, right, and how it is linked with other HR activities in the organization. Now, so if you look at this communication plan, basically what we are going to talk about is that your communication plan first look at one thing, that how along this line starting with individual, group, the department and the organization. Okay. Each one is having its own objectives. Okay. So, individual objectives or the group objectives, depending upon whether it is individual or group, is meeting the department objectives. The department objectives, all the departments you have is meeting the goals and objectives of the organization in terms of the kind of performance that you want to achieve. So, when it comes to communicating, whatever going to communicate, the KPIs at each stage, right, what are the key result areas or key accountability areas, starting with the individual, group, department and the organization. You are also going to identify objectives, specific objectives which need to achieve at different levels. You also need to identify standards at each level, right, and make sure that they are aligned with each other. So, this is the first kind of alignment that you are going to see. Now, organizational objectives and goals must be aligned with what you call the strategy, the corporate strategy. Now, this strategy is also at different levels, as we talked about. It could be at the corporate level, the business unit level, and in the business unit you have departments and individual. Now, what we are talking about here is that make sure that whatever you are doing is communicated to all the stakeholders in the process well in advance, and this communication strategy has to be very clear. So, here individual strategy to achieve his goals and objectives, the business units has to clear there, the departments have to do it, business units through that organization, and ultimately this is going to lead to ensure that your corporate strategy is aligned with the goals and objectives of the organization, because ultimately these objectives are going to fill the broader goals and objectives of the organization. So, you need to ensure that your strategy helps you in achieving the goals and objectives. So, depending upon your strategy, you decide what kind of goals and objectives your departments would have. So, there should be a congruence and consistency across this, and make sure that it is linked, right. Once that is defined, right, then you move to the next stage, and this next stage is that you know that this kind of alignment at the goals level, at the strategy level have, this is communicated to the stakeholders in the process. So, we are basically talking about a performance management system. And so, the stakeholders in the process include employees, managers, top management and HR. Internally, externally it could be customers and suppliers, because they might be also be involved, because you need to decide who is going to be involved in the process. Now, when you are going to have this kind of performance management system, you need to communicate what you are going to have in the name of a strategy at different levels, how the goals are congruent and consistent, starting with the individual to the organization, what kind of a strategy you have in order to achieve these goals, right. So, once this is communicated, every stakeholder in the organization understands what is in it for me. So, they are going to decide whether they will be able to achieve this or not, what kind of a strategy they need to adopt, okay, what is there in for me. So, what I have been discussing about is these things, right. If you remember, we have been talking about how does it work. So, once you have this performance management system, you need to look at it that okay, this is how it is going to work, and in the process you also decide that the roles and responsibilities of each and every individual. Starting with the employees, top management, supervisors and others in the process, maybe peers and subordinates, right, HR department, customers, suppliers, who are external stakeholders. Okay. So, each one of them have their responsibility in the system, right, depending upon what kind of PMS you are going to use. If you are going for say self evaluation, employees has a major stake. If you are going for multi-rater feedback, then you are going to involve everybody in the process. If you want only supervisors to evaluate, then you are going to have a different kind of system. So, depending upon the approach to performance management that you have and who is going to be involved in the process, okay, you need to communicate it very clearly along the line what is expected from them, what kind of responsibilities they have so far as evaluation is concerned, right. So, roles and responsibilities are clear, and then how this is going to linked with other initiative. For example, if you are going to evaluate the performance, whether you are going to use it for developmental purposes or administrative purposes. It means based on this, whether you are going to identify the strengths and weaknesses to develop a plan for the development of the individual, or you are going to take certain administrative decisions based on the performance records. Similarly, it could also be related with some other HR functions based on the performance of the individual, are going to recommend him for reward, promotion, growth, or you are going to take certain negative decisions related to this. But all this depends upon ensuring that everybody understands the system, right. Everybody understands his roles and responsibility. They know what kind of performance management system exists in the organization, how it is going to be implemented, how it can be linked, and the person who are involved in the process, stakeholders in evaluation specifically, they know their role very well. They are not going to make any mistake, and that is why raters have a very important role to play when it comes to make sure that the system is error free, the performance reporting is justified, and it is accepted by the individual, right. And that is why we want to discuss it further. See that what are the biases which is going to affect this kind of communication plan. Okay. Three major biases are selective exposure, perception and retention. Okay. Sometimes what happens that as a manager you are going to expose your subordinates others to only few ideas. Okay. So, you are not giving them the entire picture, but you are communicating selectively, and if you are going to communicate selectively, it means that the exposure of the participants is going to be selective, right. So, if you are not going to involve in the entire process, but you only say that okay, this is the performance system based on these are the dimensions against which you are going to be evaluated. But if you do not tell them what could be the benefits, how the system has been developed, what is their role or participation in the system, probably you are going for selective exposure. Similarly, if you are going for selective perception, it means that what kind of information you are provided and how this information is perceived by the individual or any stakeholder for that matter, right, and how is going to interpret it. For example, when you are going to communicate the ratings that your rating is 3.5, this is a selective perception, but you do not tell him that how this rating has been arrived, how your performance has been evaluated, right. Then what will happen? He is going to interpret it and he is going to be very, very defensive, right. So, it is very, very important that you are going to communicate the entire plan, starting with the goals and objectives of the organization, in what he is going to contribute, what kind of a strategy is to be adopted at different levels, what are the roles and responsibilities of the different stakeholders in the process, what kind of benefits it has, the kind of performance system that you are going to have, right. And similarly, the third point is retention. What does it mean to say selective retention? It means that you remember only that information with which you already agree. For example, in one organization, the information that was provided to the employees only the supervisor only they remember that. So, what happens? Based on this retention, they are going to provide evaluation. Okay. So, what will happen? If it is matching your requirement, you agree with that, otherwise you do not agree with that one. Okay. So, make sure that you are going to provide the entire information, okay, and make sure that whether he agrees or not, that is a different thing, but make sure that he is going to evaluate based on the overall performance, not on a part of it. right. Because if it does not have it, it means that you have not been able to communicate your performance management system or the plan for evaluation and review and everything related to the performance effectively to all the stakeholders. Then what will happen? It become pervasive and render your plan ineffective. So, your communication is not effective and this is going to distort or this is not going to provide the desired result which you have been expecting from the system. So, the idea here is that if you want to remove these cognitive biases, especially related to these 3 biases that I have been talking about, you must ensure that you adopt a strategy to minimize these biases. We already talked about these points, like you need to make sure that employees participate in the process, because if you allow them to participate, you get better support, because they have been able to decide what goals or objectives they need to achieve. So, if you are going to allow them to involve in this kind of process, what will happen? They would accept it, otherwise they will not accept it. But if you dominate them, you empower them and say that okay, no, this is what you need to achieve without their consultation, probably you get less support, right. Similarly, employees also understand this, that okay, whether this goals and objectives is meeting their career needs, their growth needs, right, their promotion needs or not, because they are obviously they are going to ask a question, if I am able to perform this level, what is it for me? Suppose I have been able to produce 100 units, or am I going to be rewarded? If I am able to sell 100 units, what I am going to achieve out of it, because organization is going to make profit, but whether organization is going to share the profit with the individual. So, you also make or communicate your plan that how performance is linked with the reward, right. When you are going to develop this performance management system, you know that there could be a lot of rumors that okay, how the system is going to work, how it is going to, whether it is going to be effective or not, who is going to be involved, how the goals will be set, what is in there for me, whether it is linked with other HR activities or not. So, it is very important, especially for the top management and the HR, to ensure that they dispel all such rumors among the minds of the employees and ensure and try to create and develop a very positive attitude. And it is possible only when you communicate at every stage of your performance management system and make them aware what is happening, why it is being done, what is there in store for you, how evaluation will happen, right, what kind of development plans is being set, and how this performance management system is going to help you all, starting with the individuals, departments and the organizations. And in the process, if you are able to do it, dispelling all the rumors, probably it will help you to develop a more positive attitude. Similarly, if you tell them all the facts and figures and the consequences also related to the performance management systems, including its success, probably you will be in a better position to develop a more positive attitude. Another important thing is that do not communicate verbally, everything has to be put in writing in black and white. So, it is always good to create a document for whatever is happening, starting with the strategy is, starting with the goal setting is, starting with the kind of evaluation you are going to have, who will evaluate, what kind of evaluation will happen, whether it is going to be annual or semi-annual, or we are going for say continuous evaluation. So, despite the kind of process and system you are going to adopt, make a document, communicate it, and then when you are going to communicate, you use multiple channels. You communicate face to face, emails, pamphlets, brochures, through supervisors. So, if you are using multiple channels of communication, probably it would make sense to the employees that yes, management is really serious in implementing this kind of system. And when you want to communicate, make sure that who are communicating. If it is HR communicating, it is supervisors communicating, and if they are credible, then the acceptance is much better. And repeat this as much as possible, so that it is more effective, and that is why we say that say it again and then say it again. So, what will happen? If you keep on repeating the same thing, probably the management the employees think that you are really serious and want to see that this kind of system develops. You also need to develop as a part of the PMS that yes, you communicate effectively about the performance management system, but you also have an appeal process. What does it mean to have an appeal process? Let me give an example. For example, you have a PMS system, okay, which is very good, For example, you have identified prerequisites, you have planned about the performance, you have implemented and evaluation. After the evaluation, you have the performance data of the individual. Now, whether people are going to accept this or not, acceptable or not acceptable, right. If it is acceptable, no problem, but if it is not acceptable, then what will happen? For example, in one case what happened, there is a person X, he was always evaluated by his supervisor, right. This supervisor did not give him, always gave him an average rating, right. So, the employee was frustrated enough. So, he made an appeal to the top management that despite his good performance, his supervisor is always giving him an average rating, which is affecting his career growth and promotions. So, instead of supervisors, let there be other stakeholders involved in the process. Okay. One thing, right, which is related to the appeal process. If it is not acceptable, there should be a system to revise based on the facts and figures to ensure that the data, performance data is correct or not. Now, this correctness of the data also depends upon the raters evaluation. If the rater has been able to evaluate properly, the data will be correct and it is going to be acceptable. If it is not, then it is not going to be acceptable. So, in a performance management system, you should have an appeal process to ensure that if the data related to the performance is not correct, okay, the management or the supervisors and the HR revisit the entire performance data again to ensure and check the correctness of the data and to ensure that it is acceptable to the employees. Otherwise, what will happen? The employee will not be happy and satisfied, because there could be biases, the supervisors are not trained properly to evaluate the performance. So, these kind of problems may happen. So, you have to have an appeal process as a part of the PMS system, okay, so that it is more amicable, less retaliatory. Otherwise, there will be frustration among the employees, they will not be happy with the systems, and if there is any disagreement from the raters, it could be resolved. Okay. And if you have an appeal process, this also provides an opportunity that employees feel that their system is quite fair, because if there is any problem or if it has not been evaluated correctly, there is a possibility of correcting it, right. So, now the question is that what are the things against which employees come up or ask questions. Okay. Sometimes when you are taking certain administrative decisions based on this performance data. For example, if you have rated fairly, not fairly well, and employees had performed well and you have not promoted him, okay, then they are going to question your administrative decisions, whether the policies and procedures that you have followed in rating or evaluating the performance is valid or not, right, whether it is reliable and valid. So, the question is of reliability and validity, right. Judgmental approach, it means whether you have been able to measure those things which you are supposed to be measured or not, or you have measured something else. So, judgmental approach, you are not going to make any say wrong decision, provided you are going to measure based on those dimensions which are relevant, important, critical, and you are using also your mind. So, you are not simply mechanically adding the ratings and coming out with a performance data, right. So, it is very important that as a part of the PMS, you also have an appeal system which is going to be good for the organization. Now, at the first stage, how this happens? Suppose the employee is not happy with your rating, then he is going to communicate it to the supervisor, right, or the HR manager, that my rating from the supervisor is not correct, it is not done accurately. So, at this stage what the supervisor will do? he will try to see that okay, he will look into the facts, figures and processes that has been adapted by the supervisor, okay. And based on that he is going to report it to the supervisor, and he will negotiate with the supervisor for a settlement with the employees and the supervisor to reach to a consensus where employee agrees to the performance rating, right, at the first stage. So, he will try to negotiate between the employee and the supervisor to ensure that the rating is good, and then he will look into the record and see whether the proper processes were followed, what are the facts related to the employees. So, if employees are able to defend or the supervisor is able to defend, then it is good, otherwise you try to see that what can be done. Provided at this level the employee is still not happy, say for example, the supervisor is not willing to change his rating because he has all the records and these kind of things, but still employee feel that he has been cheated, the system is not fair and justifiable, and the rating that has been given by the supervisor is not proper. Then what can be done? So, next level you also have an appeal process where you are going to have seniors or top managements along with the HRs and some other senior members of the organization can look into this. Senior managers or could be panel of peers or managers who is going to look into the same things, facts, processes and these kind of things, and they are going to take a final decision related to a performance. And if it is found that your performance is good, then it could be changed, and if it is found that whatever performance rating that has been given by the supervisor is all right, then they are not going to make any change in the performance data, right. So, appeal could be done at first level as well as second level. Now, the major question that we have been discussing about is that why these kind of problems come up, because supervisors are those who are going to rate are biased, okay. And this biasness may come from their personality, their temperament, their characteristics, right, and there could be a number of factors which are going to create these kind of biases, right. So, supervisors need to be made are trained and educated and made them aware that okay, these are the biases which may come up, and that is why very need to be trained, right. So, if they are trained, what are the content that need to be included in the training program of the raters who are going to do an accurate job of evaluation. This include they should know why this system is being implemented. They should also know that what kind of system they are going to use, what is the appraisal form, performance appraisal form, you remember we talked about it. They should also know that okay, what are the job, what is its level, okay, and they should have all the documents related to the recording and the measurement of the performance based on the facts and figures, right. This would help to minimize the errors. Not only that, after the evaluation they should also conduct an interview to ensure that whatever data figures that they have related to the performance is correct or not. And all that this raters also need to be trained in the process that how the evaluation happens, okay. So, if they are trained well in the evaluation process, probably they will make less mistakes. Similarly, they could be counseled or coached that okay, how to adopt a better process which is more accurate and consistent when it comes to evaluation. So, what kind of training could be done? Rating error training, right. For example, you need to define what are the typical errors that could be made by the individual or the raters. For example, we talked about supervisor bias, like he could be looking only some positive aspects or some negative aspects, and the entire evaluation is affected by this. That some supervisors, when they evaluate their employees, what they do? They do not want to displease somebody or anybody. So, neither they give very good reading or not very bad rating. So, they try to evaluate and they try to keep somewhere close to average, somewhere below average or above average and average. Okay. It is something like this. When they are evaluating employees, okay. So, this is the performance, low to high. So, when you are evaluating, if you are making a central tendency error, your evaluation is close to this plus minus 1 sigma. Okay. Even employee is good, then you are not going to rate him very high, right. Similarly, if you are lenient, then what happens? What kind of error you are going to make? These kind of, everybody is rated high. leniency error, right. But if you are very strict, then everybody's performance is rated as low. So, what kind of error you are going to make? This is known as recency, strictness. So, either you are going to be strict or lenient or averaging, rating is done average. If you look at this, all this is the errors. So, they should know what are the typical errors they make. Then there could be errors related to halo or horn, we talked about in the last lecture, that is a positive effect or a negative traits. So, you are being guided by this. Then you have like similar to me, it means you focus on those traits, temperaments and characteristics which you have. If employee have them, then you rate them well better, otherwise not. So, what I am trying to tell you here is that you need to ensure that they understand what are the typical errors which could be made by them and why it is made. So, if they are trained, then it would be better. So, you tell them what are the common errors that is made by individual, so that when they are going to do the rating, they can avoid it, right. So, they can understand that okay, this is the rating that is provided and this is the correct rating, this is how we should go about it, and this can be done only when they understand all kind of error and biases which might crop in. So, when the training program is given, they are explained all kind of errors that people make, why they make it, what could be the consequences, how to make correct rating and why you have made this kind of rating, and if you have made certain rating, how you can correct yourself, right. So, rater error training is very important. Moving to the next part, see it could be either intentional error or unintentional, right. We talked about in leniency, strictness and central tendency. These are the intentional measures, because you want to please everybody or do not want to please anyone, or you do not want either you want to displease or please anyone, right. But these kind of like halo, constant error, negativity, recency, attributing yourself to others, primacy effect, only first few things, right. So, these are some of the errors that is made by the individual. So, if you want to minimize the intentional error, we must focus on the rater's motivation. So, he does not do this job, but if you want to demonstrate that okay, how the raters will benefit by providing accurate rating. So, make sure that sometimes consciously unconsciously when they are making these mistakes, it is not made by them. So, training of rating is very important, especially the raters. So, you should provide them a frame of reference for the training, right. So, they should know what are the various dimensions against which they are going to evaluate, what kind of scales are being used, right, what are the behaviors against which they are going to measure. Okay. So, you provide a clear job description for the individual, what are the duties and responsibilities, what is expected from them, what are the performance standards. So, if you make clear key accountability, objectives and standards along with the kind of rating scale that you are going to use, probably you are providing a better frame of reference, and that would help the employees to go for better evaluation. So, you tell them what are the dimensions, what kind of appraisal form you are going to use, what kind of technology or methodology you are going to use, whether you are going for self evaluation or other stakeholders in the process, right. What are the levels that is to be achieved, what kind of rating scale you are going to use, okay. And then you show them using a video talk, something like that, okay, this is how evaluation is done. And then once you have evaluated, you share and discuss it with the rest of the people, okay. And you also provide feedback, okay, this is how rating would be done. So, if you are using these steps, probably you are providing a better frame of reference to the individual. Thank you very much.